Hello, my name is Jan from The Upcomings. Pleasure speaking to you. Firstly, I wanted to ask, what is the story behind your newest film and how did you come up with this idea?
The idea came during the shoot because I'm writing the film during the shoot. We were shooting 2, 3 scenes a day, but it started with just the idea of a troubled retired master sergeant, and I am familiar with the story as well of some soldiers. Yes. So a few years ago, one of my relatives were confined in a military hospital, and not expensive there, so we went to the hospital and I realized there's a psychiatric ward, some kind of a counseling ward where soldiers from combat duty are so troubled, so traumatized by the brutality of the wars against the Muslim Filipinos and some communist rebels in our country. So when we were starting the shoot, that element I put it in the character of the film. Yeah.
I'm very interested in the name of the main character because it's Hilarion, which I know it means cheerful or happy, something like
Yeah,
this. So,
hilarious, joyful.
so is it like sort of a counterpoint towards what happens in the film? And tell me more about the title, the Phantosmia. What is it about, and how can you explain it in your own words?
They don't really have a real specific or particular word for that kind of malady, that kind of trauma, where your olfactory system is not really working, where sometimes you don't smell anything, or sometimes you smell, these odors that are really bad. It's a consequence of trauma sometimes. So I use that. At some point, I said, because there's a lot, phantom smell, phantom odor, blah blah blah. So at some point, I said, Phantosmia would be okay. Yeah.
So it's connected and intertwined with the dreadful experience of the main character in the military service. And what happened here? How is it connected?
He was conditioned early on from a very young age by his father to become tough, the macho perspective, to always be the warrior, always be on top, the bully, the one who can command, the killer in a way. Then he entered the police force, he entered the military force, a special force in the military, and he went to these, battles with the communists, with the Muslim Filipinos, and it's all violence. That's his nature. That's his culture. Violent, a very violent character. The greater discourse, of course, is fascism. He was brought up in this very fascist perspective, very fascist conditioning. My problem during the shoot is how do you bring him back to being human? So I put the malady, the olfactory problem, the smell, so that he can confront the past. And then eventually, of course, the counselor says, you have to go back to your past, you have to write some sort of a diary, you write in details all the things that happened to you from the very first day that you entered the military service up to now. So for some kind of healing process. It's a confrontation of the past. It's an examination of his past, the very violent past that he had, yeah.
Yeah, and you also explore this sort of I think one of the greatest and most important questions of all time. Do human beings have the right to kill each other?
Yeah.
And do they?
Of course, no. Of course, no. But consequently, in some situations, you need to kill because like self-defense. Somebody's attacking you. Deliberately you can kill him, or by consequence you can be hurting each other. In a natural setup, of course, we don't have the right to kill people. Not just about the Ten Commandments or what, but it's human nature to be that. Although we are really animals by nature, we have greater rational, which tells us that we cannot be imposing on other people's lives. But of course, in military setup, it is a duty. If it becomes a duty, like you go to war and you have to kill the enemy, that's another discourse. Because if you talk about man as a moral being, it's still no, but it's war. It's a confrontation. There's the contradiction of the idea, of the issue, of the discourse of, do we have the duty to kill other people? So it's an open discourse. Yeah.
I think like each memory is like a tiny affect for the main hero, and do you believe the man can escape his past, or is it impossible in this
We
case?
can never escape our past, but some people can do denials. You can deny the past, and that's when things really go bad. When you deny the past, things will really happen, because you're not, when you deny the past, you're not even acknowledging yourself, right? The past is you. You are what you are, because of the past. Your culture is from the past. So if you deny the past, then you're denying yourself as well.
And do you often think about your own past while you're shooting the new films?
I have to examine it, not just my past, the things that happened around me, history. Yeah.
Have you ever, by any chance, maybe experienced something similar to Hilarion? And like, have you
Yeah.
had your own
Yes,
Phantosmia?
this is very specific. When I was in college, I joined a fraternity. It's a very violent fraternity. The initiations before you can become a member is really, really tough and very, very violent. You go to tortures, you go to activities that's beyond physicality. So when I become a member, what they did to me, I was doing it to the new members. I torture people, I hurt them, I impose things that are not really, that suggests, violent things. And when I was going back, I said, oh, I did those things as well. Man can be very violent if you don't acknowledge it. If you're not aware of it, you lose track of your humanity and then you can be very violent. You can actually kill people. I saw that in me. I said, oh, I can be an animal. At some point when we started hurting these new members, I said, oh my God, this is tough.
Did it leave like a certain mark on you? Like, do you
Yes.
often
Of
think
course.
about
I
it?
don't want to hurt people, of course. That's a great. It opened my eyes, not to hurt people, not to impose on people, not to judge on people, and to understand people, to understand people.
Because in your film, Hilarion is kind of trying to come up in terms with his own past.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did you do that in terms of your own past?
It's a parallel history. Mine is a little thing, but with Hilarion, it's really this vast, history of violence. And yeah, you realize that the little things that you do is, parallel to those things as well. They're the same. The little violence that you do with your dog, with your cat, with your chicken, with your pets is the same with killing people outside. You're hurting, beings that are alive, and they hurt. It's painful. So it's the same. There's no little violence or big violence. Violence is violence. Violence is evil.
And before we wrap up, I wanted to ask, because there's like a certain, I believe, expectations towards what the new Lav Diaz film is supposed to be, and I wanted to ask if you think
It's a
about
continuing
it.
discourse for me. I'm trying to stay in the discourse of humanity with my work. So it's a little contribution for me, but I keep going so that I can be part of the greater discourse. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Man.